Hey everybody, welcome back to Distinctly Digital, a modern recruiting podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Berger, and here with me are your other hosts, Sam Pro and Steve Gibson. And today we're going to continue our LinkedIn episode, so be sure to stick around and enjoy part 2.
Talk about a little bit about LinkedIn automation, because I know it is it's a big deal.
Yeah, this is something that you deal in, where I will be honest here, I know very little about that aspect of it.
So, and you know what's funny? So it's not a service that we provide, and I talk to people about this because there are some good companies that do this and do this really well, but it is something you have to be very careful about, because LinkedIn still does not want, and I can respect LinkedIn for this. They don't want their platform to become spammy.
Sure.
And so they regulate this very, very hard, where if you are going to be sending out some sort of automated messages and you're doing it through some third-party app program and you do it wrong and in a very spammy way, they're going to kick you out. They're going to put you into that LinkedIn jail, and your account could be locked up. And if they deem you a vandal and the scum of the universe, you may never get your profile back.
I like that.
Yeah, again, it has its merits in some ways, because so many platforms have become useless because of the way that people engage in them. So,
yes.
So I don't hate it completely. I do feel like that they are a little bit controlling and within that, but it is their thing. But there are some good companies that can help you be effective in this, because it can be effective, and write campaigns out and do it in a way that is that's not going to break the rules, that doesn't really deface your brand because you're doing that, because that can do that as well. Yeah. The more spam you send out, the more people have a distaste for you and your company.
Kind of like associate those two. Yeah. You think that anything you're going to say, it kind of like won't really have value anyway.
And I did a poll, which was interesting, I thought. So, and we'll get into the polls. But I did a poll on LinkedIn where I asked if anybody uses LinkedIn automation, and nobody owned up to it. And it was like it had a decent response. Mm-hmm. Several people that replied, commented. I don't believe them.
Of course not.
Maybe I'm wrong, but none of them claim to use it. So it's an interesting thought. I don't know if anybody listening has ever used it or not, but it can be, if done properly, and even having a professional set it up, which is not us, we can help, like content and different things like that. But it's something I don't want to ever put in jeopardy of getting a client banned from LinkedIn, because it is such an important part of what we do as recruiters.
Oh, sure. Makes sense.
But I will say, if there is anybody that's listening to this that does use it and is willing to own up to it, please reach out and talk to us about it. We'd love to hear your thoughts on it, especially as people who aren't using it.
Yeah, it's not one of our services offered.
No, it's really not. And it'd be interesting to talk with someone about it, get the thoughts, maybe even doing the podcast with them about it, how they utilize it, what kind of results they've seen. Any type of marketing, anytime you can build a touch point in front of an audience or a person or an individual, that's gonna bear fruit at some point if it's done right. And so one thing I mentioned in that kind of thought about automation on LinkedIn, we mentioned polls.
Ugh, polls.
Love polls.
So I don't know if you've noticed this, but polls are everywhere.
Polls are popping.
Polls be popping. Yes. Do you want to? I mean, you have a particular client that you do, social for, who has great success with polls.
Yeah, it's true. And I think they are a case study in polls done right.
Well, it's because we're doing it.
Well,
case study, Brian wins. But with that being said, I have a client that I do polls with, and they get barely any engagement, and they probably have the same connection size. It's just
Well,
polls.
There's a lot of different things that go into it. I think one, audience size can be the same, but who your audience is matters. Mm-hmm. Who's going to be reacting to your content and interacting with your content. And one of the things that LinkedIn is doing right now is really pushing polls. I mean, their algorithm loves polls. I'll have polls that I put out for clients that end up getting over 17,000 views and 400 votes, which is, I mean, a lot.
Yeah, it's great.
You know, I mean,
and you're usually doing them in a week increment, right?
Yeah. At the same time, it's kind of one of the shortcomings of LinkedIn right now, and that is if something isn't a poll, they're not pushing it. So I'll do the next day, and this poll is still getting traction, but then the next post that we do that used to do well, this type of content, is only getting about a third as much as it visibility as it used to.
Yeah. And, you know, the polls from a content producer like standpoint here, polls take us no design effort. They take us no time except coming up with a thought and a reason behind that thought. Creating the content, like the copy for an organic, like a post, or the graphic for a post, that takes time and it takes thought and it takes edits. And it's so disheartening to see those like just get barely any engagement or interactions or views because polls are just taking over. And we didn't do any thinking for that.
Yeah.
We had to do some thinking.
I mean, we thought, but we didn't like sit down for 10 minutes and design something.
We certainly weren't thought leaders.
Well, no, because you created poll.
Well, right now, though, the thought leaders are loving polls.
They do. They get tons of engagement. There's some out that they get 30, 40, 50,000, 60,000 votes on some of the stuff.
Loves polls.
And so, you know, with the platform, even there's some things that we don't think are necessarily the best type of engagement or our best post to get engagement. Doesn't mean that they're not. Like intuitively, there's some things that I would say, why would I put a poll on what type of Christmas tree should I have? A white one, a green one, and that get a decent amount of engagement.
Are you dissing my poll?
Yeah, I'm dissing your poll because to me, like I'm looking at this like, what is she talking about? Why would this matter? But people engage with it, and that's part of that personality that people want to see, and where some of that crossover of yourself is coming over into this professional platform.
Well, it's a way to show that you can still be quote unquote fun and quirky on LinkedIn.
I just want to let you guys know we went with the real tree. So thanks for those who voted. We went with the real tree.
See, how much engagement did you get on that?
Not much.
It was people who voted.
It was people who work with us.
I don't think I voted on it.
You did not.
So, LinkedIn, a lot of opportunity there. Use it consistently. I think it's important.
Yeah, and I would say, too, with these polls.
Back to the polls.
Well, no, I want to say I see a lot of people putting these polls out there and not doing anything with them. But if you do get a lot of engagement on it, do something with the information. I mean, write up about what's happening, because people took the time to interact with your poll. Obviously, they care about whatever it is that was about.
We've actually done that with a couple of our clients. We've turned those into blogs. There's a manufacturing client who has thoughts one way or the other on, recent mask mandates within the industry. Put a poll out there, got some really good information. Ryan turned it into a beautiful blog that he could then use again as a blog, as a piece of content through social, another page on the website,
beautiful content,
SEO.
Yeah.
You're right. And then within that, like you're saying, there's SEO opportunities, there's educating opportunities. You send it out in an email blast, and then you create a nice visual post about it on LinkedIn that you're then adding to that page that then you have your recruiters share to see how it all snowballs and all builds up and becomes something that actually adds value. But you have to be thinking about these things and what the end result is, not just because you ate breakfast that day and you had a great bowl of oatmeal and you're going to write about I had a great bowl of oatmeal today. That doesn't serve any purpose.
Which one do you prefer, oatmeal or cream of wheat? Vote on my poll, guys.
Also, this sparked a thought here. Just because you had oatmeal doesn't mean that we need to know a story about some child who needs oatmeal to save their life. and how you did this.
I want to get your guys' thoughts on this, because I don't know if we've talked about this. Is it okay to tell a story from first person on a LinkedIn post that isn't really something that happened to you? Is that okay? Like if I'm sitting here like and like maybe I'm telling a joke, or sometimes you tell in first person get more of an effect. Is doing that through LinkedIn okay?
No.
Sam says no. Ryan?
I mean, I think the way in which people do it, no, because you can tell that it's not genuine.
Right.
I mean, you can tell. I mean, there's ways that people can pull this stuff off and do it better than they're doing it. But when you see these posts about these stories that happened to them, these real stories.
Yes, quote unquote to them.
Yeah. We all know it didn't.
Yeah.
We could tell how you're writing it. It didn't happen. They are the pick me girl of LinkedIn.
They are the pick me girl of LinkedIn.
And for those that don't know what the pick me girl is, talk to us about that.
Are you saying that you don't know what the pick me girl is? No, I'm saying
for those of us that don't know. Not
agitated.
Specifically.
Do you want to go ahead and tell them what the
Please.
Okay. So the pick me girl is, think back in high school, who was the girl that was always just, oh my God, friends with the guys. It's no big deal. Oh, you're the girlfriend? Oh, well, it's not that big a deal. Like Dylan and I, we do this all the time. Oh, but you're Dylan's girlfriend. So you do this with Dylan now? Oh, but don't worry. We do this all the time. I'm having flashbacks, guys.
And
it's bad. No, it's those girls who feel like they are part of the gang, the crew, and in that way they now are better than you.
It's the same as the try hard guy in gym.
Okay.
Yeah, the guy who went way too hard at kickball, and someone walks away crying, and it's either someone who he hit too hard with the ball, or it's him because he's pissed at his team. He's upset that his team didn't win.
You can say pissed. It's okay.
All right.
What?
Let's just keep it not more. It's more than that, though.
Okay. No, that's where I'm stopping there.
That's where we draw the line.
This new host really taking his liberty in there.
We're getting edgy in here. But no, it's the same as that guy who gets upset that his team lost, or takes the mile way too serious.
Gosh, I feel like these descriptions are me looking in the mirror.
Yeah, we know.
Were you a pick me girl?
Yeah, or that try hard guy, or a combination thereof. I don't know.
Well, it's one thing. I mean, look, I was in a weightlifting class in high school. If you don't try when you're weightlifting, you're not going to lift it.
Right. It has to be level try.
But when you're in the basic sports class,
you could be in the weightlifting class that I was in. I was not the try.
All right. So what you guys are saying, let's bring it back to LinkedIn.
Yes.
Yeah.
What you are saying is the stories that people are telling are better off not being, if it's not something that really didn't happen, that happened to you, it's better off not saying it in the sense, or really trying to pass it off as something that did happen to you.
I agree. Yes. Don't do that. In my personal opinion, because you'll look dumb.
It's silly. It seems silly as an adult to say this happened to me when it didn't. Who are you trying to impress?
Unless at the very beginning there's some sort of disclaimer where it's clear that this was copied and pasted from someone else's story, and You're like, hey, I found this from a friend, or whatever.
I read this. And I thought it was a great anecdote. I wanted to share it with everybody.
Yeah.
Different situation.
Yeah. Which I also would suggest putting at the beginning and not at the end.
Right.
Where someone just spent, 3 minutes reading your sob story to find out it actually has nothing to do with you and it happened 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I think it's dumb.
I love that this was supposed to be like an educational, how to use LinkedIn. It turned into a big rant.
I can keep going.
He has 45 minutes worth just about polls.
Let's recap a little bit about what some of the things are important. LinkedIn is a great tool.
Yes.
It can be used and is used every day by recruiters to be able to find quality candidates that are able to benefit their clients. That's no question of that.
Mm-hmm.
It is something that should be able to be engaged on a regular basis from both a company and personal branding. From a company perspective, you should have a roadmap. You should have some guidelines, some strategy behind your brand and how you want to engage, and even let that carry through not only to your own personal brand, but also to your employees and other recruiters that work within your organization. You want to be genuine. You can bleed over to being personal on it, and being able to let a little bit of your personality come through as well. That's okay. and acceptable. There does need to be some barriers, those being Paul Walker quotes and Parrots. But other than that, finding the opportunities and ways to be able to engage on that platform, whether it's a poll, whether it's a great thought, a unique thought, a story that happened to you, not to somebody else, and using it to be able to just be visible and in front of your prospective clients and candidates and engaging with them on a platform like LinkedIn can be very, very valuable.
Agreed. Yeah. Great recap, Steve.
Excellent.
All right. So we're going to share just that clip.
I was going to say, you just took, what are we, 34 minutes in?
Yeah.
And boom, we're going to get rid of the first 34 and just do this last minute.
Perfect. Okay. So if we lost you, we'll share that as a blurb, as a clip. So if you hear this part again, that is what you're going to get. And that's too long, didn't read. Of this podcast. So, Brian, thanks for being with us today. Sam, it was great as always, and we'll look forward to just getting involved with everybody and talking with everybody next week on Distinctly Digital. Do we have social accounts they should follow?
Hey, we have a bunch of social accounts. Facebook, LinkedIn. You may have heard of that tool there. We're also on Instagram. We have a website. It's probably called recruiterswebsites.com.
Yes.
And if you go to recruiterswebsites.com/podcast, you'll hear this podcast.
All right. Check out our blogs. If you want to request a quote, that's okay too. We'll look forward to speaking with everybody next time.